schedule, more than D-Day was. You know, if the weather had been bad on D-Day, they wouldn't have gone. They would have said, oh, well, we're going to wait another couple of months and see if it clears up and so on. The census doesn't have that option. It's April the 1st of every decade. So there are enormous pressures on that system, and it's a remarkable, it's a culture, I became very fond of it. It's a culture which has more fun finding its errors than it does getting it right. Because every time it finds its mistakes, it has something to correct to make it better the next time. And the census is constantly improving. But the ability to count this population is constantly getting more complicated. Constantly. The movement, the mixed races, the mixed genders, the mixed households. Just one other quick thing. From 1790, the census was always a census of the household. That was the unit of analysis, unit of data collection. This census is being turned into a count of people, individuals, standing alone. Now they can be married and so forth and put them back together, but that's a big turning point. And we will certainly by the 2030, this will be a individual-based census format rather than a household-based census format. You still have to put them to a residency for the apportionment reasons. So you go.
This has been an incredible dialogue. Thank you. It strikes me as I listen to you both that you both believe in facts, and you both in your work take on matters of race. And I wonder, Ken Prewitt, as someone who appears to be a white man in America, maybe a WASP, dealing with perhaps controversial ideas about race, was there a moment for you when you decided it was okay to be in this space? Because I'm sure you've taken a lot of heat. And I wonder the same thing for Tina. As self-identifying Hispanic white, you write about race beautifully here in Colorado. What causes either of you to lean into that conversation rather than do what most of America does, which is try to find ways not to talk about it?
I think there is racial injustice. I think it's deep into our society, and I don't think you can do public policy about it without counts of it. We tried that for a little bit in the 1960s, just taking it to the courts and getting it sorted out. Can't do it. It happens to groups, and if the MENA race suddenly appears as its own group, we'll find out there's a lot of stuff associated with that, as we already are with the anti-Muslim. So it comes out of a deep kind of commitment, childhood commitment to that agenda. I never believed, I didn't understand the role of the census in all of it, certainly, but everybody in the room probably has that sentiment that if this is a tool that can do something to reduce social and racial injustice in this society, we want this tool, we have to make it work as well as it can, despite all of its flaws and so forth. I'll just say my book called What is Your Race? The flawed effort of the census to classify American people. And so I gave it to the editor, and he said, why that? He said, it's the failed. I said, no, it's not failed, it's flawed. It's not failing, because we use it. For all of its weaknesses and so forth, we use it to govern with. Every 10 years, we continue to use it. We've not had a failed census. Not quite. 1920 was a failed census. That quick story. It's very fast. Anyway, 1920, this is the first census that reports the population to be more urban than rural. Okay? Put your mind back in 1920, Red Scare. These Irish and Italians in these cities like Boston and the Northwest, taking our country away from us. The Congress was very conservative, rural, Republican, and they didn't reapportion. Just simply refused to reapportion for 10 years. So that was a failure. The thing the census was supposed to do was reapportion proportionate to size, the growth of the states, and so forth and so on. And the northern states have been growing faster because of the immigration population and so on and so on. And so that's the only failed census. So anyway, I'm not saying it's not flawed, but it does do its job, and it's capable of doing its job if politicians will let it. Sorry, you have to answer the question.
I guess I would just say that that we're part of the American story, and that for a long time, even now, we're not considered part of the American story. And so my interest lies in that education, in these facts, in the way the census can, statistics can, make visible what seem to be invisible. And I would say I come from that perspective.
That's my sentiment, exactly.
I've been wondering, since this is a community indicators meeting, and this is a fantastic conversation, when you talked about the earlier census classifications and things that I've read about having octoroons and quadroons, 1/4 black or 1/8 hypodescent rules, 1 drop of black blood would make you black so that you couldn't own property and things like that. And then when you talk about the 2000 census, it sort of comes full circle where now, because you mentioned it's a subjective question. It's almost like a vote of empowerment. I'm claiming multiple race, and you can see it now tied to funding and policy as sort of a reclaiming, and now counting is going in a positive way. I was wondering if you have any thoughts about whether that count of multiracial people, multi-ethnic people, could be considered a community indicator of sorts. As the higher that goes, the more post-racial a neighborhood or community has gone.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I do think and it's going to grow. It is growing, and it's growing more heavily, of course, in the younger populations. You're seeing it they're carrying it into the demography, and I think it is an indicator of the health of a diverse population. Social justice is something we worry about for people, and have to, individuals and families. But the idea of a diverse population is itself a value if we can do it right. And then the census will tell us how well we are doing it. And that's a big achievement. I have to say one thing. My wife in 2000 is very Irish, European. And she just said in passing, we were separate, I was living in Washington doing the census, and she was still in New York. Anyway, so she got the form and I got the form, but she had to answer it for her and I had to answer it down there. And I said, well, what'd you do? And she, I put down black. And I said, what do you mean, Susan? And she says, well, I want their numbers to be higher. Very far.
Thank you very, very much.